on side.
No, that's just an expression I have. It always gets people's reaction. What what do people say about kids these days? Tell me.
Well, we're generation multicast, aren't we?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Supposedly this is the biggest generation gap since the 60s.
Why? Because people are having kids later and maybe...
No, it's not like
technology is exponential.
Yeah, things have changed so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now your formerly hippie parents don't understand you at all, right?
Yeah.
That's good, that goes. Okay. This morning I want to talk about argumentation. And I have a standard argumentation lecture I give, but I threw it away because I believe that we need to do something a little different and in a little different fashion. We do have argumentation number 2 on the schedule later, and we'll talk about that. An argument is not a claim. A claim goes like this: I am beautiful. Right? Now, of course, this is unsupported, unsubstantiated. Just like your claim that, Mom, you should let me stay out till 12:30. Right? You have to have a reason behind something. Then it becomes an argument. It becomes an argument when it is supported by reasoning in some way. When there's another idea that goes with it that supports and makes it seem like it's true. It's proving one thing or another. You do this all the time. You do it constantly. You do it in talking to your teachers, to your parents, to your friends about which movie to see, about what kind of music you like or don't like. Everything is pretty much, you should be making an argument whenever you do any of these things. I mean, if you're meeting and deciding where to go to lunch and it's like, where should we go to lunch? I want to go to Friendly's. Right? Well, why do you want to go? Oh, I don't know. I just do. Nobody's going to take you very seriously. But if you have, they have a big discount on that bacon, cheese, beef, carbo-loaded thing I really like. So, then you have a reason. So we do it all the time. Don't think that you don't do it. You do it. But you may do it in a little different way. You do it in a different way than you do in debate, and you certainly do it in a different way than you do when you're presenting your original arguments in one of the first 2 speeches of the debate on either side. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about the structure of a single argument. The structure of a single argument. Every single argument. And this structure is not the kind of structure you would learn in other instances about argumentation, like the data claim warrant scheme of Stephen Toulmin or other people's kinds of schemes. This is one specifically designed for debate. And it is the ARE formula for an argument. The ARE formula for an argument. The A stands for assertion, the R stands for reasoning, and the E stands for evidence. This is how you make an argument. Now I'm going to go through these and explain how this works. The assertion part. This is, if you want, the name of your argument, or the tagline, or the slogan, or the catchy phrase that you're using to describe this argument. Okay? This should be a complete thought. Here are bad assertion labels. Economic. And usually that's accompanied by social, as well as the ever-popular political. Right? Those are not arguments. Those are single words, right? And you could say that, a political crisis is coming. You don't just say political, you would say something. A political crisis is coming. Or, the proposal will not solve the problem. Or, the proposal will fail. Right? And so you want this to be a complete thought. You also want it to be fairly short for reasons that we'll talk about in just a minute. And you want it to be catchy. You want it to be catchy. You don't want it to be so catchy that it's irrelevant to the argument that it's describing, but you do want it to be to be catchy, right? Something that has some rhetorical flavor. The odd bit of the poetic. You know, Aristotle's very famous for his book, The Rhetoric, but he also wrote The Poetic. And his notion is that these are two separate kinds of discourse. That the poetic is abstract, about feelings, about, spiritual kind of things, and the rhetoric's very practical, proving things, requiring things, demonstrating things to people you're trying to convince. Which is why I think poetry is always better in matters of the heart and love than rhetoric, right? Dear, let me give you 5 solid arguments as to why you should fall in love with me. Number 1, right? This will not work. But, if you write some cool poetry, maybe someone will decide that they like you. But, even though Aristotle said these were separate, I think that it's very important for the effective use of modern rhetoric to have a bit of the poetic. Right? So you might have an argument title that is, they have nothing to fear and don't know. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. They're afraid of the dark and themselves. Right? To the extent that it's poetic and sort of describes the argument, they're going to bust the budget. Right? Now, why is that kind of poetic? Well, it has alliteration, bust, the budget. Right? And it's kind of a word, the BU word, it's going to have the bust, the budget. So it kind of has some power just in the way it comes out of your mouth. These kinds of terms are called plosives. Right? And so you don't want to be afraid to have an item of rhetoric in your label. You don't want it to be so bizarre that they have no idea what it's talking about, but it should be catchy, and it should be short, and it should be a complete thought. Okay, step number 2, reasoning. This is where you use logic, or reasoning, or rhetoric, or anything else to explain the argument you're making. To explain the argument you're making. You might say, for example, this proposal will be incredibly expensive. It's going to have to train thousands of people and build countless new facilities, and that's going to cost a lot. Right? It's going to bust the budget, and then you explain why it's going to cost a ton of money. Okay, you give reasoning, explanation. Then, after that, you want to have some evidence. Some evidence. Evidence is, and I think the most appropriate use of the term for debate is where you connect your argument with reality. Where you connect your argument with reality. You might mention, for example, that every time new things have to be built and new things have had to be trained, new people have had to be trained, it's cost a lot of money. Can you think of any examples of new things we did that cost a lot of money? No?
Davis Center.
Davis Center, yeah. Yes, Zach?
The Iraq War.
The Iraq War, yeah. That wasn't building and training, but it certainly cost a lot of money. $874 billion. Your tax dollars at work, I'll say. Okay, so this is where, and you notice that these things we talked about are real things. There's the Davis Center is there, the Iraq War happened. So what you're doing is you're connecting your argument with reality. You're connecting your argument with reality. Hi, I'm a beautiful young high school person. I have this idea, and I have this argument, and I hope you vote for it. And oh, by the way, reality proves that my argument is true. Reality proves that my argument is true. And that's what you're doing in the evidence step. You're giving something tangible, something they may know about, something you could identify that supports in some way the reasoning step. Now, let's think about this together and see how this works in debate. You stand up. You make an argument. This proposal is going to bust the budget. Judge is sitting there, starts right down. It bust the. And about the time they're on the, you are explaining it. Right? So while they finish writing down the assertion level, you're explaining the argument to them. And then they look up and sort of, well, okay, yeah, I sort of understand that. I see what you're saying. Right? And so they're done writing this, they've listened to this, then you give the evidence, then you would like them to write down the evidence. You'd like them to write down the evidence. Right? Data center, Iraq War, interstate highway system, public hospitals, right? Neighborhood health centers. All of these things are things for which you had to train a lot of people. That cost a lot of money. I'm not sure the Iraq War is a perfect example, but it certainly is a good example of something that costs a lot of money. And so this is how it works functionally. They write down the title while you explain the reasoning step, then you give the evidence or the support. Now, this is every single argument you make in the debate. Every single argument you make, every small argument you make in the debate will have this structure. When you're just refuting or disagreeing with them, you have an assertion label, we have some reasoning, and you sure as heck try to have some evidence. The number one reason why Boyana is unhappy with the debate performance of human beings is they don't give enough examples. And I think you can rarely have enough examples. It's very useful and really makes you sound really informed, like you know what you're talking about. And then the judge wants to believe you. And the judge sees the connection between your abstract argument and your evidence, and you're a lot better off. Okay, so this is any argument. Now, let's change it a bit. Okay, so instead of talking about induction, deduction, causation, all that kind of stuff, I want to talk to you today about what your judges thought you had a problem. And that's building your arguments. Building major standalone arguments of yourself. Right? Either you read something you found on the internet and that was it, or you made an argument that was really short and didn't develop it. And there may have been other things, but judges are looking for argument development. Judges want you to develop your arguments. They want to vote for well-developed, high-quality arguments. That's what they're about. Also, you need to think of yourself as the source of the argument, not your evidence. One of the problems I think we may have had yesterday was people like, oh, I found this from so-and-so, now let me read it to you. Right? No. Here's what judges don't want to vote for whatever newspaper articles you found or internet websites. They want to vote for you. Right? Or you should make them want to vote for you. Right? So what happens is, I'm a human. I have this argument. Let me explain this argument to you. This argument rocks. It's so good. And guess what? Here's a bit of evidence that really supports that. But wait, there's more. There's another piece of evidence, another example that proves this even better. Right? So, you need to do this. The other thing that I've received some feedback on is not properly qualifying your claim. Not probably. All people will disobey the proposal. Right? No anorexia victim will ever be rehabilitated. Right? These kinds of totalistic claims are usually false. They hurt your credibility. All Vermonters are beautiful. Right? I mean, people know that's not true. When you say that, your credibility is shot. So feel free to use something other than all or none. Most, many, a lot of, some. Right? You can talk about it in this sort of way that makes you seem much more credible. And that's what you want to do. You want to be credible. You want the arguments to be something that are about you, and you make the judge want to vote for you. All right, now let's talk about the kind of steps you might use and in developing an argument, a major argument, an argument for first prop speech, first op speech, or your new argument in second proper op speech, right? Let's talk about how to do that. Okay. will have a name, like the assertion label. Okay, we'll have a name. Immediately after that, it's good to have a thesis statement. A thesis statement. A thesis statement would be a 1 or 2 sentence explanation of the entirety of the argument you're going to make. The entirety of the argument you're going to make. 1 or 2 sentences, you explain the entirety of the argument you're going to make. Right? Then you have different steps. I can think of it this way. You have a starting step, a middle step, a final step. You might say, well, some people are, let's say that the motion is that lower speed limits will save lives. How's that? Right? And so the prop is saying that, lower speed limits are going to save lives. And your argument is that very few lives will be saved because people like to go fast. People like to go fast. That's the argument. Okay? Your thesis is, people are in a hurry these days. They want to get to where they're going. Time is money. Many of us are overcommitted in terms of what we're supposed to do. So people like to get there as quickly as possible. Okay? Then you might have the starting point. You might explain that. Now thinking that you're going to have 3. Okay? What would be a starting point for this argument? What would be the first thing you would talk about? Sir? Zach?
Why people are going fast?
Yeah, why people are going fast. I said if you know. And so you might have reasons why people are going fast. Okay, what would be the next step of your argument? People are going fast.
What people going fast may cause?
May cause?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, that's what the prop is saying. Fast speed's bad, kill people, ugly hamburger on the highway, stuff like that. What would be a middle step?
Why this will happen?
Well, because they're, why?
How this affects the proposition's argument.
Okay, here's an idea, okay? What do you think the final step should be?
How this affects the proposition's argument.
Right, so like people aren't going to go slower. There's going to be very little reduction in speed. Okay. Now, it's a little easier to think of the middle step now if you know where you're going. All right, so think of the middle step. They want to go fast. Why don't people drive 300 miles an hour now? No, because their cars don't go that fast. Why don't people go 130 miles an hour now?
Because they're cops.
Because there are police, okay? All right, so there are police. And what happens? You get caught, they write you a ticket,
Yes.
okay? All right. Tell me about the police. Are they effective in stopping people from driving fast?
No.
No. Why not?
They're not enough of them.
There are not enough of them? They're not around? They may be busy fighting real crime, right, or something like that. Okay? How about the drivers? Why don't the drivers slow down because they know there are cops?
Because it's not a big enough consequence.
Okay? All right, so what's the prop doing? They're lowering the speed limits. Are they changing the fines?
No.
No.
There's no incentive.
Yeah, there's no incentive. So the police, aren't effective. Drivers ignore the limits and the cops. Other things people do to avoid speeding tickets?
They like that radar thing.
Radar detectors. Very good, sir. Yeah, you want to mention everybody will get radar detectors. right? And that'll stop them from being caught. The other popular thing is you get a group of about 20 cars all going 75 together. And there's, some safety in numbers and, people feel good about it. All right, so you have your thesis, your starting point, the why. This sets the stage for the whole argument. Right? If people don't want to drive fast, don't want to go fast now, then this whole thing is ridiculous. The result is very few of them are going to drive slower, and the middle step explains why we get from what they want to what the result is going to be. And you think about the barriers, the incentives, the things that exist. Okay? So this is how you should think about structuring your arguments. Every argument's different. We're going to talk about some different kinds of ways to structure the steps in your argument in a minute. The final step is impact. This answers the question, so what? So what? Big deal. I'm going to turn my phone off.
Wait, so impact answers the question, so what?
Yeah, impact answers the question, who cares? Why is this important? Here's the thing. All of your major arguments you put together need to end with this step. Now let me tell you why this is really important. It means that they're not going to save a lot of lives. It means that they're not going to reduce a lot of expenses from car crash and medical damage. It means they're not going to achieve their goal. In fact, can you think of any way in which it would get worse?
The people who are speeding are going even that much more faster than the people who obey the speed limit.
Ooh, so there'll be a bigger difference between the people who are obeying and the people who are disobeying? Is that unsafe?
Yeah.
So we just discovered not only do they not solve the problem, but they make it worse. Right? And so people who are already going 65 and the speed limit goes down to 55, they decide, well, crikey, right? If I go 60, I'm already breaking the law. I might as well floor it, right? So once you're already breaking the law, go for it, right? Oh no, I'm only going to shoplift one of these CDs. While you're at it, grab a handful. So I'm not saying you should steal things from the stores. Of course I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that once you're already doing something, right? Let's say you cheated on a test in school. And it worked. You might try it again, right? Okay. Yes, Mason.
I'm just asking a clarifying question. I'm kind of confused between the middle step and the final step. So is the middle step how you explain how your thesis, like the result, like how the results of it? Your argument is?
Your argument's kind of a story.
Right.
The thing of it is, this is the beginning of the story, people want to go fast. This is the end of the story. You're not going to solve anything. And of course, the middle part of the story is about the police, about how they don't deter, there aren't enough of them,
right.
Radar
The middle
detectors.
step is just how you get from
How do you get from one to the other? And I just want to say, some arguments may have a couple of middle steps. Some arguments may have no middle step. I mean, every argument is unique. What I want to tell you is, for better argument development, you need to have steps in your argument. And you will do much better. Judges will be on board with you. Here's something that the debaters don't realize. Do you know what you're saying?
Okay.
Yeah. You probably know what you're saying more than anybody else in the world, right? Nobody knows what you're saying like you know what you're saying. Right? But that's the point. All communication is inaccurate. There's a loss of meaning, right, in the transmission of information. And debaters always say, how could the judge have voted against me? My argument was, well, no, that's what you think you said, and that's what you meant, but that may not be what you said. And even if that is what you said, that's not what the judge hears. My advice, always treat the judge like they're stupid. Always treat the judge like they're stupid, even if they're smart. Even if they're smart. remember when you were taking a mathematics test? I was very mathematically challenged, and my buddy would give me the answer. This is in junior high school, and I would put it at the bottom. Here's the answer, and the teacher would say, no credit. You have to show your work. Ever heard that one? No, you can't just give the answer. You have to show your work. Like if you're doing a geometry proof, right? You have to show the steps. You have to show your work. And this is what judges want. Smart judges want it. Stupid judges need it. And just because they think they're smart doesn't mean you think they're smart. Right? Nobody ever did poorly by underestimating the intelligence of their judge. If nothing else, they showed the work. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to go too far. Now, this speech is about elephants. Maybe you've heard about elephants. They're big. You don't want to be simplistic or condescending. But show your work and have these steps. Okay? Later on, we'll be talking about how to impact your argument, how to make it seem really important. But here, right, we could say they are not going to solve their problem. People are going to continue to speed. More people will probably speed, and it will be more dangerous than it was before because cars will be there will be a higher differential in speed. And so, if you want to save lives from automobile accidents, don't vote for the proposition. They kill more. All right, so this is how you develop a kind of step system. Now, there are several kinds of step models that you can use, and I want to talk to you about them. There's the causal chain. There's the causal chain. I hit, what's your name, Howard?
Yeah.
I hit Howard in the face with my fist. He doesn't like that, right? He complains to his parents. Another causal step. His parents don't like that. His parents say, only I'm allowed to hit Howard, right? And so they complain to the university. And the university does an investigation. And a bunch of you testify, yeah, he hit him really hard and seemed to like it. Right? And then I lose my job. Right? Now we have a causal chain, right, of things that are happening. This, therefore this, therefore this, therefore this, therefore this, and then the result. And I lose my job. And that's really bad. Right? Because I'm clearly unemployable at this age, so I'm hosed. All right? So you can have a causal chain. Make sure you have all the steps. Don't leave one out. What's the weakness of having an argument built on a causal chain?
If you knock down one of the earlier steps, the rest of them
Yeah. Yeah. What if the university says, oh, Tuna, we never investigate him. He's awesome.
If you don't get fired.
Right. Then I don't get fired. No problem. Howard gets hit, but I don't get fired. All right. See how that works? If you break one step in the causal chain. What happens if you leave an important step out?
Well, that makes sense.
And then so Howard complains to his parents, and Tuna gets fired.
But did
You
Howard,
know why? Like how did that happen?
did Howard's parents fire Tuna?
Yeah, I don't work for them yet, or so you think. So yeah, if one of the steps missing, now do you think that other teams in making arguments will leave out steps?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so a very useful form of argumentation against people who are doing this is to say you missed a step. Or, as we saw, just break one step. And you're in pretty good shape. That's one kind. Okay? Another kind, typology. Typology. Right? Let's say you're talking about different people. Right? The proposal to limit speed, reduce speed limits to 55. Okay? And you want to talk about how this is going to have adverse effects on individual citizens. Okay? Can you think of who might be hurt by this?
Well, I mean, ambulance drivers, like
Ambulance drivers, they'll probably disobey, but
they have to negotiate slower.
they'll have to negotiate. Ambulance drivers, yeah. Who else?
Commuters.
Commuters, they'll have to leave earlier.
The buses will run slower.
The buses may run slower. Truck drivers is one I thought of right away. right? They get paid on delivering stuff, and if it takes them a long time, right? So you can have a single theme, okay, that people are going to be hurt by this proposal, and then your steps could be different groups of people who will be hurt.
So
How about hobos? Will they be hurt? No, you wouldn't put them on the list. Zach?
So typology is a list of examples.
They're types, different groups. If the theme you're talking about manifests itself on different groups in different ways, it's like the ambulance driver and the commuter experience this quite differently. Right? It's not the same thing. So they're not necessarily examples of the same thing. They're groups to which the same idea applies. Okay? The next kind you can use is a problem solution. Problem solution. And your step, this is quite often on the proposition when you're talking about how, mandating debate as being taught in every high school will improve student test scores. Okay? What's the problem? Students are not learning much now. Okay, and the steps here generally are, I'll use the medical analysis. There's a bunch of ill, cause, cure, cost. Ill, cause, cure, cost. Ill, there's a problem. My tummy is upset. Right? What's the cause? It's this nasty coffee I've been drinking. It sours my stomach before breakfast. Right? Effect. Ill cause, cure. So what's the cure? Cures for my upset stomach include stop drinking coffee. Is that going to help me in the short term? No, I'll use Pepto-Bismol. Right? So there's a long-term solution and a short-term solution. You think that's often true with problems that people talk about? Yeah. Yeah. This is very famous according to cost, too. Oh, sure, we'll have high short-term costs, but it will have big long-term benefits. Let's build a solar farm outside to harvest electricity, and it's going to cost a veritable pantload of money to build this thing. Right? Well, then once it's built, the sun shines and the energy comes, and there's long-term savings. This is true with most renewable energy. Right? So, nuclear power plants are kind of the same. They cost billions and billions of dollars to build. Then once you build them, they run pretty much. The fuel's not too bad, etc. Okay? Long-term, short-term. Next, chronological. Chronological. You could talk about how something is true through time or through history. You talk about how something is true through time or through history. For example, let's say we're making the argument that all empires fall. All empires fall.
That's a totalistic claim.
What?
Totalistic claim.
Yeah, well, that's why we're making it. Name me one that hasn't.
America.
The Chinese.
Not an empire.
The
Not assembled by conquest. Erected and sustained by soft power and MTV.
The Chinese dynasties, the Greek empire.
Yeah, they fall every single time.
Every
Don't tell.
failed.
Right,
No, but
right.
they're
Don't
so-
tell
so-
Secretary
so-
Wen that he's in charge of an empire. I don't think he's gonna like that. All right, yeah. Is it unwise to make totalistic claims?
No.
Not always, but generally it is. I'm siding with you. Generally it is.
If you can back it up.
All blondes have more fun,
Okay.
right? Okay. So you got something chronological. So you might say in this example that, and think, hey, here's an ancient empire. It came up, it ruled, it rocked, and then it fell. Here's another one, and you might move forward in time. So in all different periods of history, we've seen that it's about as true as it gets, that empires fall. Okay? Now, could you do this one in a Another way, could you say all empires fall and use another method? Try the causal chain one.
No, that's what I was thinking.
All right, where would it start?
Well, food supplies decrease.
No, I think start by saying empires appear and expand,
Oh, okay.
right? They get bigger, right? And then
And they spent so much on the military.
they spend a lot of money on the military to fight back the Visigoths or the Russians or somebody, right?
And their budgets get strained.
Yeah, and then they end up spending a lot of money keeping their empire together, like Britain. You know, their empire eventually cost them a lot more than they were getting. Early on, India was a cash register, bang. But after a while, it didn't work. All right, and so then they start, and then the periphery starts to break free, and it falls apart. Plus, there's that moral decline at the center. Moral decline at the center. Can you think of any empires that have? Okay, Romans, they had like those, games, and now watch wild animals eat slaves right in front of you. Whoopee! All right. What about other empires? What was moral decline at their center?
Well, Napoleon had a really serious power, like he was really power hungry, so it was greed that he had a problem with. That was his moral decline.
Mm-hmm. Greed is often. If you do think there's an American empire, has greed played a role in its decline?
Yeah.
$400,000 houses for people who are making $25,000 a year. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say the church during the Middle Ages.
Yeah. How was that a moral decline?
Well, the plague played a big part, but they were becoming very morally corrupt, like with the indulgences.
Yep.
And then Martin Luther King, he put his 95.
No, Martin Luther.
No.
Martin Luther, sorry.
All right.
And
He was a very strange guy,
I am a man of one book. He was very proud of it.
Well, he also said that the devil kept spying on him. While he was writing and stuff, he said the devil would look over his shoulder or look in his window. Okay?
You would say that.
And how did he scare the devil away? Does anybody know?
Money.
No. He would expel some gas in the devil's direction, and the devil would leave. That's absolutely true. Or at least that's what Luther says. I don't know why he would say it wasn't true. Okay? So you could have causal chain, typology, problem solution, chronological, and I think there are a number of others as well. Anything that you can think of that works for you, do it. Okay? So this is we talked about having steps, having extended arguments, so you're going to do better. But there's one thing that Boyana will say you need more of. What's that? Examples. What you need are forms of support. You need forms of support. Things that are going to support your argument. And a lot of times they're examples, but I don't just want to say examples. I want to give you a list of possible forms of support. Right? These are things you can use in the evidence step to support your argument. They assist the audience in accepting the specific point you're making. They make the connection between your abstract theoretical argument and reality. Here are some, in no particular order. Current event. Current event. Something is happening now, or happened just recently, that proves your point. Okay? Anybody know anything about South Ossetia and Abkhazia?
Yeah.
All right, these are breakaway republics from Georgia. There's a very open issue as to whether the UN should recognize them as independent countries. Now, if you're in favor of that, and think and you're arguing that that would be good for those countries to be seen as independent under UN stewardship, and you think of a current event that shows that countries can become independent with UN support, Kosovo,
Montenegro.
Montenegro. East Timor is a really good example, only because Indonesia killed hundreds of thousands of people to keep it and stuff, and then it became independent, and now they've had free elections and everything's good. So you say, yeah. So Come on, let's go South Ossetia, Abkhazia. You know they have delicious citrus fruits in Abkhazia, I'm telling you. And that's not, I don't know a lot, but I do know that. And so, yeah, let's go. And it, worked really well in Kosovo and Montenegro and East Timor. And you wouldn't just say Kosovo, Montenegro, East Timor. You would give a little example. You would say East Timor was granted independence from Indonesia under UN stewardship. The UN guided them to independent governmental structure, and since then they've had 2 free elections, and things are really a lot better. You don't just say example. Right? You wouldn't say, I only have the handsomest boyfriends. Jim, Joe, John. You might want to stop and mention how Jim was so handsome. Right? Buff beyond belief. Okay, current event. Next, expert opinion. Someone who knows something agrees with you. Someone who knows something agrees with you. Very important here is to have a name and who they are. Professor Johnson. You know he's a professor at, ESPN University. Right? Expert opinion. This is why whenever you read news stories and try to remember things for extemporaneous motion, or whether you have information for a prepared motion, it's good to know the name. This is what I hate. Well, The Economist said. No, The Economist is usually talking about someone else, where they got the information from. Right? Fox News says.
Well, is that really good source in general?
No, that's why I'm saying don't use them. Yeah. Wikipedia says. We talked about this previously. Who talks?
People.
People. All right? Why should we listen?
They know something.
Because they know something. Right. So you have to identify who it is and what they know. And that will help you a lot. Okay? Now, if you say now, your mind is divided into 3 parts. Right? What are they?
3 parts, prefrontal,
You're getting all physical on me now. The cerebellum, the cerebrum. And what's the other one?
Brain.
What?
Brains.
Okay. All right. And how is that no, that's not the example I'm looking for. Okay. The id, the ego, and the superego.
Oh God.
The id, the ego, and the superego are 3 parts of your mind. All right. And if you don't believe me, that's based on the work of
Freud.
Sigmund Freud.
Oh.
Right. And why? And who cares?
Not me.
I understand. Who cares? Who cares? Why should we listen to Sigmund Freud?
because he was excellent at psychology.
Yeah, because he is probably the father of psychiatry. He's probably the father of psychiatry. And was the most famous psychoanalyst of his time, and much of our current work on psychiatry and psychology comes from his foundation. So we want to believe it. Okay? Somebody, and we have to believe it. Quotation is next. Quotation. Some famous person or expert makes a statement. Some famous person or expert makes a statement. And these are often little, remember I talked about poetic elements? These can be little poetic elements that you throw in. Most often quoted person in debate is?
Thomas Jefferson.
No.
Benjamin Franklin.
No. Winston Churchill. Because he said tons of clever little things that are, like he said, if there's one thing you don't want to do, it's invade Russia in the winter. Right? Or have you heard that democracy is the worst form of government?
Except for all the
others. Right? He has these little clever things, right? One of the Lady Astor once told him that he was in the House of Commons and he had spoken And she stood up and to ask him a point of information. He took her, she said, "Sir, you're drunk." And he goes, "Very well, but tomorrow I'll be sober and you'll still be ugly." It's a little clever saying, right? There's kind of a poetic element in them. One of my favorites by the 19th century author H.L. Mencken: "For every complex problem, there's a solution that is clear, simple, and wrong." For every complex problem, there is a simple solution that is clear, simple, and wrong. Okay, and so this doesn't necessarily prove the argument outright, but it adds flavor to it, it adds support to it, and that's why I call it a form of support. Someone you should never quote in a debate.
Hitler?
Hitler. In fact, you should never use Hitler as an example either.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Why is that?
It's overused.
Because
Well,
it's still
he-
a touchy subject.
It's still a touchy subject.
It's also
Like 60 years.
overused.
I think the verdict's in on that guy, so.
Well, it leaves sort of a bad taste in the judge's mouth, doesn't it? If you,
It's
I
overused.
think accusations of "you're like Hitler" and "you're like a Nazi" are really overdone.
Like, yeah.
It's overused, and any idiot can say. I mean, if you want to talk about dictatorship, what would be a better example?
now.
Castro, Mao,
Pol Pot.
yeah, Pol Pot, Mussolini. Don't use, show your, whenever you're coming up with something, flash your smarts. Make them think, "Oh, smart kid." Quotes H.L. Mencken. I like that. Right? And so it boosts your credibility. And there are debaters who memorize dozens and dozens and dozens of quotations. I'm not one of them. I make my own quotations. Statistics. Reference to numbers that support your argument. Reference to numbers that support your argument. Now, no one expects you to be an almanac. Right? No one expects you to memorize all kinds of numbers. But that doesn't mean that statistics are irrelevant for you. Is the Chinese economy growing even during the global slowdown?
Let's check.
Anybody know?
Yeah.
Yes. Just by far less than it has been.
Yeah. Do you need to know exactly how much in order to make that claim?
Well, not even
No,
far less.
you don't.
What's that?
Our country's
I'm sorry.
It's not even far less. It's growing at over 10% now.
Yeah. During the depths, it was still like 7%, and now it's back up to 10. Right? So you don't need to know. Do you need to know the exact number to make the claim that even in an economic slowdown, the Chinese economy is growing? No.
So you can
You
use.
just need to know the general range. Right? Are teen pregnancies going up or down in America?
Oh.
Wrong. Down.
Really?
Yep. Marijuana smoking by teenagers in America is going up or down?
That I don't know.
Down. Okay. Number of, let's see, U.S. budget deficit going up or down? How much? A little bit?
A
A
lot.
lot.
Yeah, right.
Like more than ever?
Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, see, we know these ballpark ranges, and you can make that argument. Here's what I never want you to do. Make stuff up. Don't do it. I think it's like, I'll say China's economy is growing by 10.3%. That'll make me sound smart. No, it'll make the judge think that you're making stuff up. Right? Judges are very suspicious when you have these elaborate statistics that you mentioned. But if you use ballpark estimates, like the Chinese economy is still growing vigorously, and then you're smart, but you're not a liar. Right? And it really hurts when someone decides that you're smart and you're a liar. Who are you afraid of, the stupid liar or the smart liar? Yeah, the smart liar. Right? It's like evil people. Or who do you fear, stupid evil people or smart evil people? Smart evil people, exactly. Right? And so, this combination of smart and a liar doesn't work. And and they may not even say it. They may not even go, "You're lying about the Chinese economy." Right? No, there's like he's probably making that stuff up. and you'll be marked down in another way, and it will never be mentioned to you, but it's true. So keep your credibility. Don't make stuff up. Case study. Case study. You take a case study that's very similar, and you relate it to what you're talking about. Let's say we're talking about the legalization of marijuana, okay? And that we were in favor of such a risky, wild move. Right? But you wanted to favor that. What was the case study that you would use?
Marijuana's
Yes.
not addictive.
Go.
It's the prohibition. It was.
No. We want to legalize it.
I know. I'm saying the prohibition being.
Oh, prohibition fail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Yes.
you could use like an instance where another country legalized it.
Yes,
and the
like?
rates went down.
Like?
Netherlands?
No, yeah,
Amsterdam.
well, back just in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, okay, Amsterdam. Perfectly good example. Every coffee shop also sells marijuana
And mushrooms.
and all kinds of other stuff. Not that I would know anything about it, except I must confess I looked in the window, and I was in Amsterdam, and I also looked at the prostitution windows. Because I couldn't believe there was like windows on the street and women standing there and you go, hi, come here. And they're like, what's going on? Looking for a good time? I was like, whoa.
Awesome.
I was disgusted. I was disgusted to see my sisters put in such a horrible position. It was awful. There weren't any guys there. Well, there were guys there, but not standing in the windows. Okay, so you have a case study. Amsterdam. Did things seem to be going okay in Amsterdam? Anybody know?
Yeah.
Yeah. They make a lot
Okay.
of taxes.
Yeah, they tax it. They make a lot of money. Now the mayor says that he would like to cancel both the legalization of marijuana and legal prostitution. Why?
What's the point of going?
Why is that, Mr. Morgan?
Because of the type of tourism it attracts.
Yeah, it attracts all the wrong kind of tourism.
Americans.
No, it attracts British 20-somethings,
Yeah, it's-
mostly males, looking for, this is what I noticed when I was there, and a lot of them don't even stay in hotels. They just party all night and then fly home sometime on Sunday, so.
You guys know what a stag weekend is, right?
Yeah.
That's
Vegas.
pretty much.
Why don't
what
you,
it is,
I
right?
don't think everyone knows what a stag weekend is.
A celebration for a groom before he gets married, where he goes out with all his guy friends and does all those things he's not allowed to do after he's married, to kind of get them out of his system. But yeah, it's large groups, sort of 10, 15 drunk males. And as Tuna says, not even booking accommodation. They
Yeah,
just party
it's
through
not.
and get on the plane. And
Right. They don't want them. They want like family style tourism. People who will get hotels, who will spend money on food, who will, take tours. And Amsterdam's a great place for that. I think there are like more strange museums there. The Museum of Torture. They're just all kinds of strange. The Anne Frank Museum. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's part of the reason Amsterdam probably makes so much money off taxing marijuana and stuff is because that's really one of the only places that I can
Yeah.
think of where it's actually legal to smoke weed.
I think that's going to change really soon. California seems to have identified a new way to deal with this budget crisis.
Oregon as well, recently.
Yeah. So, all right.
Vermont will catch on.
So this is an empirical study. It's a case study, right? You're saying, hey, it worked in Amsterdam, or it didn't even work in Amsterdam. Now, if I'm saying, hey, it worked in Amsterdam, let's do it in Baltimore. It'll work just as well. What's wrong with that claim? Go. Zach.
Baltimore is different than Amsterdam.
How are they different? Yeah, it's different. Different name, different place.
They're different population, different demographic. There's different people. There's
Different income levels.
Yeah.
Different historical traditions.
there's different everything.
Different political traditions. Holland is probably one of the most liberal countries
Huh.
there is.
Yeah.
Liberal environment for individual rights and everything. That's why they have a political party whose platform is to encourage pedophilia.
What?
Hey, what?
They
They
think
have-
pedophilia should be legalized.
Yeah, they have a pedophilia party. Now imagine trying to have that in the US.
Don't they have like NAMBLA or something?
No, that's the urban legend. Okay.
NAMBLA.
Okay, we don't even want to talk about NAMBLA. So what is this?
The first rule about networking.
Don't talk about it. Okay, you got about case study. But if it's not the same, like case study, I went to Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island, and it worked out well for me, so all of you should go there too. Actually, like me, you'd be damn lucky to get in. But no, that might not be the right school for you, right? You're a different person, you may need a different educational environment, different majors, you may not want to live in Providence, Rhode Island, but you're not as dedicated to H.P. Lovecraft as I was, yes.
Would a case study also be like a like an actual like study, like marijuana is not addictive?
It might be an actual study.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'll just give you an example. The National Institutes of Health went to Jamaica to do a study about marijuana smokers, and there were a lot of them there. And they studied people who have been smoking marijuana for an average of 9 years, and they studied 8,000 people. Right? That would be a case study. And then they had results, which I won't mention, but then the results would be what you would use to support it. So it would be a case study.
Are they the good kind of results or the bad kind of results?
Actually, they showed that there was no physical or psychological harm of any kind. But I think that's because of the culture of things. They weren't uptight high school kids. Okay. Next form of support, analogy or comparison. Analogy or comparison. Your point is very much like something else. Your point is very much like something else. You're trying to compare this to, like my analogy, let's see, my morning lecture is like a steam bath. What does it have in common with the steam bath?
Hot and educational.
Hot, educational. Okay. You get your education in the steam bath? I'm going to tell. A lot of hot air. Right? So, maybe that's fairly analogous. People are getting sleepy. It's hot, it's steamy. Right? Are there ways in which this lecture is not like a steam bath?
There's no steam.
There's no steam. There's a small amount of steam coming from my bald head, but that's enough.
People have clothes on.
People have clothes on. People are taking notes. Generally, you don't take notes in the steam bath. So what we're seeing is that analogies work to the extent that they work, that you can make them apply. You can say that your life is like World War II, right? But that doesn't mean it's exactly like, and so an analogy in this way is very much you're trying to give someone more details. It's like an illustration. Right? How bad is my life? It's like how bad is my love life? It's like World War II. It like keeps stabbing me in the back.
Does analogy or comparison go under forms of support?
Yeah, it's all another form of support. Okay? And there are literal and figurative analogies. Literal analogies are where you're comparing two things of the same type. You could say, oh yeah, my college experience was a lot like my mom's. Right? You're comparing things that are the same type. Or you could have a figurative analogy. My college experience is like Woodstock. Okay, these are two different kinds of things.
Awesome college experience.
And I mean, you see this, once again, we talked earlier about the rhetoric and the poetic. Here's the poetic. My love is like a red, red rose. I mean, sounds good, seems pretty cool, but does that mean that it withers quickly and has thorns? Right? No. Right? Because it's a figurative analogy. Figurative analogies are not thought to have much logical force in Western civilization. In Eastern civilization, figurative analogies are thought to have more logical force. Which is why, often when you read Chinese philosophers, they're always making these analogies.
So, like,
the morning is like a new lotus.
do judges respond to cliches very well?
I hope not. Like what?
Like, well, I mean, if you say, I used one the other day.
Doing the big nasty.
I can't remember one. Yeah. Oh, give him an inch and they'll take a mile.
Oh,
Something like that.
no, that's not a, that's an idiom. That's an expression. That's a little saying. A homily, it's, what's the word I'm missing? Not a homily. Proverb, there we go. You guys are so smart. It's proverb. Right, give it an inch, they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
Right, a stitch in time saves nine. I don't really know what that one means. but-
Well, yeah, if you don't want the cut, basically.
Okay,
It's like an ounce of fetcher.
all right. Personal testimony is next. Something that happened to you that proves your argument. Something that happened to you that proves your argument. Here's just some advice about this. Before you go off telling your personal story, first you need to make sure it's extremely relevant. Oh, that reminds me, I was on vacation with my parents and we saw this hot dog. So it should be relevant. Second, it should be extremely short.
Not like Alice's.
It should be extremely short. And third, it should be real. You should not make it up. Right? There's a Slovenian debater, Sean, who I admire quite a bit. I think he's a really excellent world schools debater. He's fantastic. I saw him in this debate about Facebook, and he goes, I am a Facebook addict. As soon as I get home from school, I open up Facebook, and I'll spend 3 or 4 hours there before dinner. Then after dinner, I tend to not do my homework. I go back to Facebook. I am walking proof that Facebook is bad. And then later on, he's laughingly saying, yeah, I don't even have a Facebook page. So I said, so is doing so well in a practice debate so important to you that you would tell me a bold-faced lie? I said, now your credibility is shot. So every time he makes some claim now, I said, yeah, it's just like Facebook. Right? Don't make sure it's real. Narrative about another person. You may have a narrative about another person. Right? Same thing. Make sure it's relevant, keep it short. Personal testimony can be really powerful. If you know, like I've seen instances where the debate was about spousal abuse, and one debater talked about watching her father beat up her mother, and how traumatic that was. Not a lot of detail, but everybody just went, nobody's going to say, I bet it didn't hit her very hard. I mean, nobody's going to, if it's your personal testimony and it can be fairly meaningful, then no one's going to give you a hard time about it. And same thing with telling a narrative about another person. Visualization. Visualization. This is where you put the judge in the situation that you are talking about. All right? Let's say you're late for an important appointment and you got to get to the office in 15 minutes, but if you obey the speed limit, it's going to take you longer than that. What are you going to do? Probably crank up your radar detector and step on the gas. And the judge goes, yeah, I got to get to that important business meeting.
So like anecdote?
Well, it's a visualization where you create a situation and put them in it. An anecdote's a story, right? And so, well, you really want to put them in it. And I think this works really well with things like discrimination, right? Or like the wild science fiction we watched last night. The aliens come, they want to eat your children.
Only 10%.
Only 10%. And of course, what do all the people in the cabinet want to know? Well, our children will be excluded, right? Yeah, none of your children will be fed to the aliens. Okay then. Let's give them all kids with low test scores. Is what they decided to do. Way to go, government. But how would you feel if it was one of your children? Right? Maybe you were lucky enough, but this is the thing the cabinet officials didn't recognize. Right? How would you feel if it was you? If you were in this situation? And if you want to make something sound important, let's face it, our judges can't identify with refugees in Darfur relocation camps. Never been there, don't know anything about it. But if you could visualize, even for a few seconds, what if you were there? What if you were there? How would you feel? You'd go, damn, we got to do something about this right away. right? So generally, you can make something seem more important this way. Historical example. Events in history support your point. Right? When nations feel trapped and isolated, they tend to lash out. Example, Japan before World War II. I don't think they were isolated, but they felt it, so. Right, historical examples. Now, you need to make sure these are analogous. The American Empire will fall. After all, the Roman Empire fell, and the British Empire fell. So the American Empire will fall. What's wrong with that?
The American
We're not
Can you explain
Yeah, we're not necessarily, well, it depends on what you mean by an empire, but we didn't conquer a bunch of stuff, right? We occupied it and then went home. But we may have dominated them through soft power. Comic books, Donald Duck. TV shows. It's so funny. Boyana's very funny. She goes, "Oh, is there a wedding? Can I go? I want to see." What do you mean? Well, I've only seen American weddings on movies. I want to see if they're really like that. And it's like, the movie industry sort of fascinates. Now, historical example. Oh, it's not an empire. What else?
Oh, well, you didn't explain the steps in between, like, all those empires built on each other. Like if the Roman.
It is? British built on the Roman?
Well, yeah, they're
Well, they
all,
came after.
their buildings are built like directly on top of the ruins.
They come after. I just think that most of the Roman Empire was not occupied by the British at all. Maybe Gibraltar.
No, I was talking about like literally the island was like that was conquered by the Romans and then
Oh, and then became the British Empire?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well that's, all right. Yeah, there's some coterminous real estate. What else is different between then and now?
Different world political climates.
Yeah, totally different world political climate. Communications, transportation, economic interdependence. Things are really, really different now. And the more different it is, then maybe the less accurate the example is. Does that mean that if it's from far ago history, it has no lesson to teach us?
No.
No, it may very well have important lessons to teach us, and that's kind of the area. Last thing I want to talk about. Commonly accepted ideas.
Is this still forms?
This is still forms of support. You've met me now. This is me, the coach. I have a long list of things to tell you. Wait till we get to 13 ways to make a point of information.
Wait, is this like conventional wisdom?
Yeah, conventional with commonly accepted ideas. Something almost everybody believes. People are motivated by money. Is that a commonly accepted idea? Yeah, so you can argue that when we offer up money, they'll go for it. They'll give up their children to be fed to the aliens. No, just kidding. All right, any other commonly accepted ideas?
greed is good.
Yeah, people want motivated by money. I'm not sure people say greed is good, but
Yeah, we're sticking track, Gordon.
anything else?
Time is money.
Time is money? And everybody's motivated by money? Think about basic human needs, right? You will act to protect yourself. Do this or die. Okay, I'll do that. That sounds fine, right? You know that if you have unprotected sex, you may become HIV positive and die, right? So does this increase your motivation to either remain celibate or to use condoms? Sure it does. Sure it does. Even if you're completely celibate always, might you want your partner to get a blood test before you get married? Might be a pretty good idea. You never know. Okay, so people will protect themselves. People will protect their loved ones. Yeah, their children, their families. Will you die to protect your mother? Would you give your life to protect your mother? Most likely. Boy, that was a really low-key endorsement of that. Do you think your mother would give her life to save you?
Yes.
I think there's kind of an unequal obligation.
absolutely.
Well, you have to remember, we are supposed to advance the generation. The whole point of a parent having a child is that so that the child succeeds and becomes greater than the parent was.
My mom always says that she lived her time anyways, so
Yeah. Great. See, deep philosophical issues are only a moment away. You can just get them whenever you want. Okay, so these are some ideas about argumentation. The basic parts of an argument, how to make an extended argument when you're making those prepared arguments in the first two speeches on each side. We learned about steps, right? How to give an argument steps. We learned about putting the impact or why it's important at the end. We learned about different types of steps, whether typology, causation, problem solution, chronology, different ways to organize the argument. And then we talked about lots of things that you can use as evidence. Where do you put the evidence in here, in these steps? Where do you plug it in?
The middle step.
No, wherever it seems most relevant. Wherever it seems most relevant. There's no, right here. Right? Remember, evidence is not your argument. What does evidence do for your argument? Supports your argument. Who's making the argument? You are. It's just something you read out of some newspaper or website? No. It's a great idea that you have. You are vast. You contain incredible logical power. And your thought can change, can bend reality. And watch, I'm going to bend it right now, you say in the debate. And then you start debating, right, and restructuring reality for them. But you can't do it in the absence of some reference to reality. And that's what the forms of support are that I talked about. Okay? All right. Take 10. Get cool. Professor.
Yeah, and copied it and stuff.
yeah, okay. You know,
Yeah, I go from like BAM, and then I move into like my handwriting.
Oh, really?
This is
Like
really
it start out or like about around here?
I'll finish over lunch. It's always the title that's the best, and then it gets a little worse. And then I move back. Sort of drifted in there as I move.
10:17.
Still there? Oh, okay. It's hot. Yeah,
really
we go outside for a
is there
second.
any more water left?
There might be.
Not mine though.
Oh, no, never mind then. Not down for getting some weird disease.
Swine.
Yeah.
HIV? Actually, it's not.
drink fast.
On Thursday. Why don't you just say I can only drink to a certain point?
I thought that was really useful actually.
Oh, thank you.
Would that work better?
No.
Every once in a
I just
while.
want me to throw away those. I'll still press on.
Traffic counts are right there, so. Like another thing.
Can I pay you for some of the water you have in your room?
Just a bottle of water, it's like, it's worth it much.
You refill it. You refill it?
No, I don't.
Tuna?
On tuna?
Yeah, do you know where James Bond
James who? James Fox?
Yeah.
No. Why? Is that a famous person I should know?
Jamie Foxx.
Oh, Jamie Fox?
That's the James
There's
Is
a
it
British,
is
there's
it
a
a famous
British
debater I'm
actor called
supposed to
James
know?
Fox.
I don't know. Everyone in Korea knows who he is.
And who is he?
It's like, do you know Jamie Suskin?
Jamie Suskin, yeah.
I think.
He's a schools debater from England.
Oh, okay. Alright, and what is he now? The head hogwom guy or something? Alright, which group are you taking?
I'm taking group 1. Can you all remember whether you were a 1 or a 2?
I was a one.
Yeah.
Right, if you were with me the first day, you're with me now.
Can we
Okay?
stay in here?
So we're gonna. No, we're going to Lafayette.
It's cooler. Oh.
Hey, give him the motion on the porch.
Wait,
Goodbye, Nina.
Now, if I don't end up with at least 7 people, I'm gonna be really hurt.
Yeah, I'm in group 1 too.
That's funny. Were you staying here?
Let's try.
There's a water fountain over there.
Okay, here's the thing, I'm gonna give you a motion. And I want you to write a 2-minute argument with steps. Either for or against this motion, I don't care which one. And then we're gonna speak it. Everybody gets a different motion, ready? Howard, I'm gonna give you, this house believes that print media is on the way out. I'm going to give you, this house would ban violent video games. Pop musicians make bad role models. Ban boxing. Boxing.
Boxing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ban cosmetic surgery. Elective cosmetic surgery, not like when your face gets burned off or something.
Alright.
And this house would oppose the death penalty. Steps, evidence. I didn't give you one? This house would attack Iraq to destroy its nuclear capability. You either be for it or against it. I'm going to get my timer now. Iraq. Oh, attack Iran. Yeah. 10 minutes starts now. semifinals of nationals. Take good care. Not 3 or 4 arguments, 1 argument. Okay, who wants to go?
Is it alright if I have 2 arguments?
I'd like to have 1.
Okay.
Because we're working on argument development, so. Remember 2 minutes? No? No one's ready? Howard, I understand Canadians are always ready. Are you ready?
I can go for it.
Don't worry, if it's no good and I don't like it, I'll just make you do it again, so it's not. All right, I'm gonna give you, all right, good up for Howard. What's your motion?
This house believes that print media is on the way out.
Okay, are you op or prop?
I'm prop.
Okay. Howard says it's on the way out. I don't want a bunch of introduction or whatever. Done with the argument, just do your argument. Go.
So I'm going to talk about human behavior. I'm going to talk about how this has been changing through the different ways of communication that's been given to us. So we see that right now there are many new ways, many new forms of communicating to the public, and this is through the internet, through the TV. We have video news, online news. All of this has been giving. This has been something new and something that humans have become accustomed to, and we're starting to increasingly use these sources of information. And this is making the print media more and more obsolete. So we have to analyze essentially 4 different groups, groups of people. There are 4 types of people that I'd like to look at. First of all, you have news addicts. These are people who want to see the news all the time. They want to have the news every hour, on the hour. And the fact is that print media just cannot provide that for you. If you want to have the news right away, the internet is the source that you're likely going to go to. The second type of person is a person who's very lazy, somebody who just wants the quick bites of news. And even Toon has told us that the attention span of people is shortening, so they might just want the quick bite as opposed to reading the long story. Then the third group of people are people like us debaters, who want to have points of views from around the world, and where it's hard to get Al Jazeera English delivered to your doorstep. So because you want more points of views, you have to go to other resources online. It's simply not realistic to have to subscribe to so many different newspapers because of the cost. Whereas when you have if you have the internet, if you have a television set, once you have that initial cost, you pay for that cost, then you no longer have to continually pay to get those sources of information. And then the final group of people that I'd like to look at are those who are just looking for entertainment, and it's purely sometimes the internet or the TV can just be more flashy, and people can therefore be entertained by that. So it's for these reasons that I believe that human behavior and in analyzing human behavior, we can see that print media is on the way out. Thank you.
How was his assertion label? What was it? What was the title of his argument?
Something about analyzing human behavior that shows the media is.
All right, we have a resounding silence. I don't think your assertion label needed to be clear. Right, my argument is, boom, insert label there. Okay, you were clearly using a typology, right? Right? Do you think all your groups were good? I don't know about the debater group, but you're there. Okay, did he miss any steps? No, I think you missed the impact step. So this means that all these 4 groups all are better served by other forms of media. These are dominant groups in our society, therefore print media is just not going to make it. Okay, how about evidence? Yeah. Okay, that was pretty good. All right. So when you do it again, you're going to have a better title. You're going to have the impact step better. Okay. All right. And we'll have you do that again in a moment. Next. We're going to go around the table then after we establish. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay.
What's yours?
I have this house would ban violent video games.
Okay, and I'm clearly inadequate in my task, and I don't remember your name. It is
Joe.
Joe. Oh yeah, you're the one they talk about all the time.
Good or bad? Okay.
Just kidding. What do you have? And your motion ban violent video games?
Yep.
Go.
I am also the opposition.
Go.
In case you wanted to know. You can't blame an object for the way it's used. The same thing applies to software as it does for weapons. Weapons in the hands of the right people, such as the police or the military, save lives. Weapons in the hands of a criminal are dangerous. Taking the same principle, it's not the software that causes the problem, it's the individual. The people that play violent video games take what they see and put it into real life. They won't be affected by the loss of those games. Without the games, it wouldn't turn all the violent people back into normal, loving, carefree hippies. Those people would simply find another medium to get violent ideas from, such as movies, TV shows, books, even the news, where it seems that every other story is about someone dying somewhere and describing how it happened. This shows that the loss of violent video games would have no effect whatsoever on the reducing the violent tendencies of people. They would just find another way to get their violent tendencies out and to get ideas for how to express these violent tendencies. Yeah, that's it.
No. You only spoke for a minute and 17 seconds. You're supposed to develop the argument. Okay, sit down. How could you develop the argument better?
Talking more about, I don't know, like the weapons or something, or the impact.
Yeah, you need an impact step, why this is important. Right, make sure that you specifically state that, or why it's important. Does that answer the totality of claims about violent video games? These people are already violent, and so they play these games, so it wouldn't make any difference. That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about the argument that they create violent impulses when they didn't exist before? Right. That's the other side. One is many people who like violence play this and then go berserk and shoot somebody in the head. And then the other one is that normal kids are turned into more violent because of it. Okay. Can you think of how to put in don't blame the tools for that?
I mean, there are other ways that the same thing could happen. It's not all violent video games that's doing it.
Right. It's the same argument you're talking about, that they get it from other sources. And so, can you think of any reason why violent video games would reduce violence?
Because they've given outlet.
Yeah, maybe you should put that one in there too, right? Always think, this one's kind of defensive, all right? Let me explain the difference between a defensive and offensive argument. Sorry, I don't want to blind you with my bald head. A defensive argument is where you say, oh, it's not so bad, or it'll be okay, or whatever. And an offensive argument is when you say, no, we make that better. That's a reason to vote for us. So your argument's mostly defensive, right? Don't blame the tools for the people who do it. But you could also put something offensive into it by saying that if people do have some of these predilections, they'll get it out of their system through the video game. Right, so then you can claim you actually reduce it, okay? And you will give yours again in a moment.
Okay.
Go. And don't call people hippies, we don't like it.
Okay, my motion is this House believes that pop musicians make bad role models.
Yeah.
And I'm opposition.
All right, cool, go.
Pop musicians don't make bad role models because they can influence and reach out to today's youth in a positive and effective way, the way nobody else can. Now let's look at what who are the people parents want their children to be looking at as role models. Parents want their children to find something that they're good at, work hard at it, and become successful at it. And that is exactly what pop musicians are doing. They are skilled in what they do, and they have to work hard in order to succeed. The music industry is one of the toughest to survive in, and the fact that these individuals have managed to rise to the top and demonstrates the consistency and the setting of goals that we want our youth to have today. Just the way any successful businessman will have to go to university and spend years studying and then work hard and to rise in a business, is the same way that a pop star is going to rise in the music business. But the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, that children today aren't reading the business section in The Economist, finding out about who is leading today in the business world, but they're watching MTV and setting musicians as their role models. And in addition to this, pop stars influence society in a very good way. They do charity work and therefore set positive examples for our youth. So, and especially for young kids who look up to them and are influenced by them. So yes, pop musicians actually do make good role models since it is them who they are paying attention to.
Well, what if they're paying attention to them and they're singing worshippers?
What?
You said that pop stars can do good things, but did she tell us any pop stars who do good things? No. Can you think of some?
Like a name?
Yeah, a name, and here's good things they do.
I guess, I was gonna say Michael Jackson.
That would probably be a bad example.
Yeah, I know.
Madonna.
Yeah.
What for? What did she do that was good?
Adopting African.
Adopting gender privileged African children. What else?
Angelina Jolie.
For the same reason?
Yeah, 'cause she's adopting children.
Okay.
Bono.
Bono's, I think, the number one example. He spends most of his time running around, fighting malnutrition, global warming, stuff like that.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates, he's not necessarily a pop star.
Oh.
Although, seeing a pop music video starring Bill Gates would be fun. So, yeah, I thought you really needed more examples of pop stars. I think your title was a little long. Right? So your argument was actually fine, except for examples. Right? That proved it. So, stick some in and give it again. Yes. I'm sorry, and you are Edie, that's right. I know. Is that EDY?
No, it's Edie.
Ah, and where are you from? I know you're from Greece, but where? Athens.
Okay, my motion
I'm
is.
sorry, and you are?
IR.
I'm sorry, what's your motion?
This house believes that boxing should be banned. And I'm prop.
What?
Proposition.
What's the motion?
Oh, this house believes that boxing should be banned.
Boxing should be banned. Get rid of it. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go.
Boxing is a physical activity that causes pain and violence. Boxers often tend to suffer from wounds, bruises, and other physical injuries. This house believes that boxing should definitely be banned because it will cause a negative impact on those watching it. Children will be prone to fighting in the streets, therefore causing society to engage in fights and other hazardous activities that will weaken everyone. A good example of this is that my friend was once a very nice and kind girl. She used to watch boxing on TV, and then she turned violent. All of a sudden, she turned violent, and she became a bully at school. That just comes to prove that the negative impact that boxing has on its viewers, the audience. People would have to take safety precautions when walking down the streets. If boxing were banned, there would be a positive influence and impact on society. If boxing were banned, people would live in a more dangerous environment. Violence would and has started spreading slowly throughout the world. Once again, this house definitely thinks that boxing should be banned because it will surely negatively impact society. So ask yourself, what would the world be like if boxing was encouraged?
Okay. It was a little short.
Yeah.
Minute and 20 seconds. Here's what I want you to stop doing. I want you to stop writing something out longhand and reading it to me.
Okay.
Because you don't get to do that in the debate.
Yeah.
Right? You just take little notes, you speak from an outline, And so let's work on developing our outlines so that we can speak to that more. I thought your title was catchy, but I think you could say boxing spreads pain and violence.
Okay.
Instead of it's an activity of us. I thought you had a good use of a personal example, and you could say that maybe that's not the cause, but it seemed that way to you,
Yeah.
and that would be all right. I think you need to talk a bit more about how watching it makes people do it.
Yeah.
That's the critical thing, and so. I mean, what would some of those reasons be? You watch people do it.
Like because they think they're the role models when they so they tend to copy them.
Yep, so they'll copy them, they want to be like them, they're
Yeah.
their heroes, I want to be like victorious, brave, strong, all that kind of stuff, and then they say, well, if I act like that, I can be that way too. And your impact, and you gave your impact step a good try. You were in there. It's like, it'll be safer to walk down the street if we don't have this boxing stuff.
Yeah.
And that might be kind of an overclaim. And instead, you could say something that has a bit more credibility. How could you say that banning boxing would make the world a safer place? That seemed a little more credible.
Well, you wouldn't say that people would be safer walking on the streets. That's like a thing to say. Yes.
How about saying that there are many violent influences in the world, and this is certainly one that we could do without. And on balance, we would have less violence. That seems credible. You're not saying there'll be no violence or we'll be safe, and you're admitting that there's a lot of violent stuff in the world, but this is one that
Boxing
people
is
are.
like that.
And now, why is boxing uniquely worse than the other violence?
Well, like I said before, because it has pain and like
You have a lot of violent stuff we
Yeah.
see now. Yeah, they're getting paid, it's condoned,
Yeah.
people, it's entertainment, right? And so those could be reasons why boxing is worse than other forms. And at some point you can say, yeah, there's other violence, but this is worse because it's entertainment, people are enjoying it, they're cheering, guys are getting paid, okay. And so you're gonna do it over again too, right?
Okay.
Right. Yes? You are?
I'm Namare,
All right.
and this house will ban elective cosmetic surgery.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. You know,
Proposition.
our buddy from Korea, what's his name? Sunwoo is not here, but the most popular graduation present from high school for girls in Korea is cosmetic surgery.
Really?
Parents give them. Not because, and it's usually not radical, they just want to have the perfect Korean face. There's this thing about face has to be perfect. And so there was when we made the Korean girls debate this, no, cosmetic surgery is good. We refuse to debate that it's bad. I was like, whoa. So cultural difference. All right, Imari, give me your take on it.
Alright. This house suggests to ban elective cosmetic surgery. Every person has been created in a certain manner. Nobody has the exact body complexion. People can either be short or tall, fat or thin, have blue eyes or any other color. Despite these vast differences, each physical property can be unique in its own way. Although it is true that outer beauty can matter, there is an even stronger force, and that is the beauty that comes from within. People have to believe in themselves, and that they look just as good as anyone else. There is no need to go through all these expenses of cosmetic surgery just to look a different way. My only argument is that elective cosmetic surgery can be very costly. Seeing as cosmetic surgery is not necessary, the money could have easily been directed to your child's education. Also, most of the time, this surgery can become unsuccessful or require follow-up, this simply means like spending more money for the purpose of beauty. Thus, poverty can kick in, as seen in many cases in which housing or education is no longer affordable. So what world would this be if somebody would look themselves in the mirror and say, oh, I want to change my nose. I don't like the way it looks. Simply, day by day. It is for these reasons that elective cosmetic surgery must be banned. Thank you.
Okay. Only a minute and 30 seconds. You tried to sneak your second argument in as an introduction.
Yeah.
Right? So, you're not fooling me.
Yeah,
I see your argument as this money thing, right? Okay? And originally I couldn't think your intro, where's your argument title, but then I got the argument title. Why is it so important?
What do you mean? Like, why banning cosmetic surgery is important? Because, like, it's a waste of money. It's, like, very
I understand
expensive.
that's your argument, but how would you make the impact step clear to me about how important this is? What, people want to, chop their nose off or whatever, why can't they?
I can
Save
give an
money.
example. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen on YouTube, for example, how, like, there was this person who did cosmetic surgery and his nose fell off. It was, like, unsuccessful. So what would this require? This would require follow,
Yep. And
Waste of more money.
And so, yeah. But is waste of money inherently bad?
It's not the only reason. It's not the...
No, waste of money though is your argument. It's waste of money, and that's cool. Right? It's a good argument. But we're gonna say how to make it important. Like, they spend money on nose repair and whatever, okay? And you get, a couple of times you said they should have spent it on
Their child's education.
child education.
Or, like, important stuff, like their housing or stuff.
Right, I think you would put that down into the impact step and say that this money should have been spent on, and have like 3 things, and say all of these are more important than cosmetic surgery.
You know what I don't understand? I don't understand how to, like, explain to you, like, do I say, and the impact will be, how do you know, like, that what I'm
Why don't you
saying-
say this is important because? That's a good one. Or this issue is essential to consider because. Or that kind of stuff. And you have a lovely speaking manner. It's quite excellent.
Thank you.
And if we get you some more to say, you're going to be really dangerous. Go. And you're going to do it again.
Okay.
Outline this time. No reading. You are
Taylor.
Taylor.
And my motion is this House would oppose the death penalty.
Oh, gee, that's a tough one, huh?
And on proposition.
Way to go. Go.
To not support this motion would be to disregard the goal of the correctional system. The death penalty does not reduce violent crime. The purpose of the correctional system is to deter crime. People will, starting with the main point that people will always commit crimes. There will always be a segment of any certain population that wants to break the law for whatever reason. So, and the correctional system has been introduced to introduce a deterrent to the minds of these criminals that they will be punished if they get caught. Now, this in itself is misguided when it comes to the death penalty because it is simply saying that if I get caught, I will face possible death by execution, and this seems to make the criminal only want to leave no witnesses, only want to eliminate all the people that could make a chance of getting caught. Criminals do not have some moral compass that they will not commit another murder once one has already been done to get out of the law. This is proved by cities that have the toughest sentences for crimes, have also the highest murder rates. For example, by Detroit, Philadelphia, and Baltimore, to name a few in the United States. On to the issue of cost, it costs more to kill someone by lethal injection than to keep them alive on death row for 25 years. Now, all these reasons are the reasons why the death penalty is not successful in reducing violent crime, because criminals will only try to get out of the sentence by more death. Thank you.
Okay. Not bad for a white boy. I thought your title was a little long.
Okay.
I thought your steps were okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want to try to put things together like all the reasons why it won't stop them from committing crime to begin with, right? And then group together the reasons why it only makes crime worse. I loved your argument about kill witnesses. Okay, it's also true that in death penalty states, criminals are much more willing to shoot cops, right? And cops know this, and so in death penalty states, cops tend to shoot first because they know they need to protect themselves. And I'm not really criticizing that. I think your cause thing would need to be a separate argument, not this argument.
Yeah, I just thought that when we were, I was trying to use problem solution cost was the last thing there.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep. So no.
Okay.
I thought you were always. This is sort of a causal process, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make them not commit crimes to begin with.
Yeah.
It causes them to commit bigger crimes when they do commit them. But I thought your first step about the goals of the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
I thought that was good. That was good. And that's another format you can use in the steps. Our goal is X. This doesn't reach our goal. In fact, it takes us farther away from this goal, which is another way to think of steps. Okay, so Taylor, you're going to do it over again.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You are?
Colin.
Colin. And your motion is?
This house would attack Iran to destroy its nuclear capabilities.
Which side are you on?
Position.
Okay. All right, lay it on me, Peacenik.
Okay, the United States has an enemy in Iran. It is the entire country. The United States sees Iran as an enemy, and the debate is out there over whether they should be attacked or not, because Iran, there's evidence that they are creating a nuclear program. They say it is for nuclear energy, which we have no reason not to believe that, except to play it safe. Many people just assume that that's just a cover for a nuclear weapons program. If the United States attacked Iran, it would actually be more dangerous because it would provoke Iran into action, where by letting Iran be and not interacting with them for now, or not interacting with them militarily right now, they will not be provoked. A cornered animal becomes unpredictable, and once you corner them, then they'll become unpredictable and begin to react and attack you back, where until that time they may just try to get away. Attacking Iran is, without question, a cornering of them is a threat to them. An entity will create defense mechanisms, but those defense mechanisms will only be used upon when they feel threatened and that their existence is in danger. Until that time, they won't be used. Iran has defense mechanisms, it has a military, but it hasn't used that military against us because we haven't threatened them directly. As soon as we threaten them by attacking them, then there's no question that there will be a conflict, there will be a war, where right now, there's not that conflict, there's not that war. So again, the effect of attacking Iran is that will guarantee that there will be a conflict and a war, and by not attacking Iran, we can put that off and continue trying to solve this diplomatically instead of militarily.
Okay, good. All right. In terms of your title, I think it needed to be a bit more elegant, right? And our attack will multiply wars, or violence creates more violence, or Iran will backlash like a cornered animal or something. You know what I mean? Something. And make it clear to me. This is one thing that the debate speech is a little different than normal speech. It's like, write this down on your flow sheet. This is my argument title. Boom, 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 boom. You don't want to say that, of course, but you want to make sure that they write it down. I think that's great for general audiences as well. You should listen up, fool. Remember this. Boom, boom, boom. Right? Okay. I like your cornered animal thing. The biggest that steps are good. But you need examples of where they're going to act, or they're going to attack, baby. They're going to attack. Okay, where? Are they going to attack the subway, or are they going to attack Mecca, or where are they going to attack?
Right.
What? Where do you think they'll attack?
Just like if they're attacking U.S. soil, well, obviously the defense, they're just going to defend their land.
So
but
they're
then,
defending against an attack.
but then they'll probably would start to try to attack populated areas.
They might
to
strike
affect
the
most
U.S. How would they do that?
Well, they could probably attack the U.S. forces that are already in the Middle East, like wipe
Like
them out.
forces in Iraq?
Yeah.
Yep, they can attack U.S. forces who are already in Iraq. How might they attack U.S. soil?
Some way the other terrorists did.
Yeah, support. I don't really think that this is my personal belief. I don't think Iran's a big fomenter of international terrorism.
Right, but they can,
I think
they
they're filled as well. But they might change their mind once American bombs start falling on them. And then, of course, Israel. Right, Ahmadinejad has said that Israel needs to be wiped off the map. Right, so if he's looking for a place to attack, that's probably good. Right, and they don't have much of an army though, so it's not going to be much of an attack on anybody, is it?
No.
What do you think? Well, they don't have nuclear weapons yet.
Right. It's, no.
What do you think?
It may not be highly effective.
When's the last war that was fought by Iran?
The Iran-Iraq war.
Yeah, the Iran-Iraq war. How many casualties were there? Millions. Millions. They got a pretty big. They got a big army. They may not have awesome rifles, but right. So I think you needed to give examples of where they were going to attack, and then you needed to talk about why the military consequences would be bad. And one thing to remember whenever you're discussing about impact is to compare. Right now, are we having a war with them? No. But if we attack them, there's going to be the series of new attacks in other places. Right? So stick with now, no war. Attack them, and there's going to be a series of other attacks as they strike back. So that's a good, sometimes you show, impact by, well, I may not be beautiful, but I'm not as ugly as I once was. Right? That kind of stuff. Good comparison. All right? All right? Howard, let's go. Better typology, better impact. 2 minutes, go.
So this house believes that print media is on the way out. And my constructive argument is about how human behavior is going to drive out print media. So we see that right now we have increasing means of new technology, TV, the internet, and people have more access to these technologies because of increasing wealth and because of the fact that the price of these technologies are decreasing. So given these new modes of communication, now this sets the stage for us to analyze in 3 different groups of people. The first type of person that I want to look at is news addicts. Now these are people who want the news every hour on the hour. And the fact is that a newspaper simply cannot provide that for these people. Moreover, we could look to the fact that during the Iranian protests, we saw that all video footage was on the internet. And they would go to Twitter or to YouTube to try to see that footage because newspaper companies were not able to get access to that. So that's another reason why other means can give better access to the news, to these news addicts. The second type of person is the lazy person. They want quick bites of news. They don't have a large attention span, and because of this, these new forms of media are simply cater better to their needs. And the third type of person is the person who just wants to be entertained. And we see that the news on TV is often more flashy, more exciting, or even on the internet when you see videos, it's more exciting, and therefore you're more attracted to go to those sources. Now we can actually look at right now, during the global economic recession, we see that many newspaper companies are struggling. This is because consumers are willing to actually not buy their newspapers anymore. So this shows that consumer behavior that people are willing to dispense of newspapers. So it's something that's dispensable. Clearly, print media is not so important to humans. So by analyzing what people want, we see that people are likely to be better served by other forms of the media, and as a result of this, we see that print media is on the way out. Thank you.
Very good. All right, when we're done, I'm going to give you 1 minute to refute that argument. All right, go, Joe.
I'm going to refute it, right?
Yeah, you're going to refute your own argument. I'm only going to give you a minute. I recognize Joe to make fun of hippies for 2 minutes. Go ahead.
This house will ban violent video games. My argument centers around the fact that you cannot blame an object for the way it is used. For example, weapons in the hands of people who are good in intent, people who have the right intent, can be weapons that are used for good. They can do good things. Weapons that are in the hands of those who have bad intent, who are intending to kill, to rob, to steal, to break the law in any way, they can be bad things. For instance, if you're in a situation in which you're being, I don't know, robbed, maybe mugged or something, and there's somebody who's trying to take what is yours, if a police officer comes with a gun, he may be able to save you. He can save you with that gun. But if he had not come along, the robber could have taken your life with that same gun. In the same way, video games can be used. Most people who claim to be influenced by these games they're not only influenced by these games. You see, there are other influences in their lives that can cause them to bring about these violent urges. In an attempt to ban violent video games, it would be most reasonable to assume that people would want to reduce the violence in the world, but if that same attempt were to be made, then you would have to also ban other sources of violence, such as TV shows, violent movies, books, even news stories about violence. Also, there's an example of there was not a violent video game for children that were having mental problems. They wanted to attack their own school, so they in turn created their own game. So in effect, the loss of the violent video games would open up sort of another market for video games where people could make their own games and sell them, and there would still be violent video games even if they banned companies from making their own games. But these violent video games would be more dangerous.
So tell me why it's important. Where's your offense? Remember your offense?
In the same way that guns can be bad, so can video games, but
No. The video games can let them work out the violent impulses. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure you remembered it.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Much longer, more content, a bit better. Still a little weak on the impact step. You just got carried away with explaining. Sometimes there's young debaters get happy because they're talking and it seems to work. So they'll, okay, I'm talking about this, and yeah, it's going pretty well. I'm actually making sense. And so, I think I'll continue talking about it because I'm making sense and I haven't goofed up. And maybe if I stop talking about it, I'll talk about something else that I don't understand and won't do as good a job. So I'll just keep talking about it. See what I mean? So you need to think about how much time you're spending on Debater Happy Talk, but that was better. Edie. Is this our pop brothers and sisters? Go.
Pop musicians don't make bad role models. Actually, they can influence and reach out to today's youth the way nobody else can. Now, what do parents want from their kids? They want them to find something that they're good at, work at it, and become successful at it, whether that's math, chess, or singing in front of an audience. The music industry is one of the toughest to survive, and these individuals have managed to rise to the top, demonstrating the consistency and the setting of goals that we all want our youth to have. Now, Madonna is a perfect example of this. She is today's queen of pop, but she has come a long way to achieve this. She once was a poor girl striving to sing in front of a small audience and wishing to become famous. And today, she has created her own mini empire, performing in front of millions of people, which she can reach out to. And because of that, she has the power to do significant charity work and set an example to all her millions of fans. especially by giving money to different kinds of organizations and setting her personal example by adopting poor children from Malaysia, which she now raises as her own. Now, one might argue, why don't children have a successful businessman as their role model? He's gone to university and he's worked just as hard to rise to the top of his company. But do children today read the financial section of newspapers? No, they're watching MTV and they're logging on to the fan website of Madonna. So young kids are influenced by pop stars. They can relate to them, and frankly, pop stars are one of the few people who can attract a teenager's attention, and this is why they are positive role models.
Okay. Yay. I like your good first step, what parents want. I think that Madonna adopts from Malawi, not from Malaysia.
Oh yeah.
They kind of sound the same. When my daughter was 7 years old, she bought a Madonna cassette and came in and asked me, "Daddy, what's this stuff in here about safe sex? Could you explain that to me?" I was like, okay. Businessman or businesswomen, okay? And it's sort of like they don't want to look at, why don't they look at business people? That sort of came out of nowhere. It was like just a related argument, but not strong. I wanted to hear about more examples. I wanted to hear about Bono. I wanted to hear about Paul McCartney, right? About people who did, more examples. I think would have made it better. Okay, Joe, you'll have 1 minute to answer your argument. I think you understood that. You'll have 1 minute. Okay, go. The pain, the suffering, the agony.
Okay. So this house believes that boxing should be banned. What is boxing? Boxing is a form of entertainment where boxers gain money by fighting each other. Boxers tend to suffer from cuts, bruises, and other physical injuries. What impact does boxing have on its viewers? Boxing has a negative impact on its audience and viewers because children often tend to copy their role model and do what they do, which can impact society in a negative way. A good example to prove my point is that a long time ago, my friend was very kind, nice, and very generous. After watching boxing, she was very violent. She turned into a bully. Everybody hated her. Sad. What would be like if boxing was banned? People would feel people would live in a more positive and safer environment. A lot more people would feel more comfortable and safer walking down the streets without having to look over their shoulder every minute or so. However, if people were permitted to watch boxing all the time, many would have to take safety precautions, and we would definitely live in a more negative and more dangerous world. Children would be fighting each other every minute or so because of money. And that's why I think that boxing should definitely be banned, because it causes a negative impact on society and will harm many people. So ask yourself, what would life be like if boxing wasn't permitted? That is all.
Okay. Minute and a half. You're getting better. Yay. I think one of the things you could have done with this was maybe talk about, because you talked about the way the fighters were injured.
Yeah.
And then the way the audience was injured. You could structure that a bit more obviously. Everybody gets hurt. First, the people participating get hurt. And the real reason they get hurt is that they get hit in the head, and then they're like Muhammad Ali cannot speak. He doesn't know where he is. He's blood. Because you get hit in the head so many times. And it doesn't affect you till some years after you quit. And that's it. But even the people who are watching it, that's what I mean. So everybody gets hurt. And so I thought I would have made a bigger thing out of the boxers getting hurt. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I thought you weren't going to say that, we would, walking down the street, we would need to take precautions. You told me you were going to say that, then you said it. And then you added, children will be fighting every minute or so because of money.
Well, because the boxers fight because of money. So, they copy them.
Okay. Yeah, and they might have, street boxing matches or whatever. Okay, that could have been a bit more clear. I thought it was and if I'm wrong. I didn't know how money related that well. Okay, you'll have 1 minute to answer. Okay, Mark.
Imagine being able to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I don't like my nose. I would like to replace it. What kind of a world would this be? A world of chaos, of course. My argument revolves around the fact that elective cosmetic surgery can be very costly. Thousands and thousands of dollars are wasted for the purpose of replacing a body part that you simply don't like. Also, by considering cosmetic surgery, a person is simply showing greed and selfishness, seeing as the money could easily be used for his child's education or raising his children. Studies have shown that cosmetic surgery is a major problem internationally. For example, high school students in Korea are actually encouraged to perform elective cosmetic surgery as a graduation gift. Because of this, poverty rates are greatly increasing around the world, seeing as cosmetic surgery can result in enormous loss of money. Thus, people end up on the streets, and they lose their jobs, and they cannot support their family anymore, which becomes a big problem. Also, more and more families are struggling with money shortage and are not able to support their child in education or housing, simply because they decide to use their money for the purpose of cosmetic surgery, or things that are not as important when you have families to raise. It is for these reasons that elective cosmetic surgery must be banned. Thank you.
That was longer. You always want to make sure that, it's like poverty is increasing and cosmetic surgery is the cause. Right?
Oh, you want me to say that?
Well, no, I don't. Because that's really not credible, right?
Yeah.
Who might be driven into poverty by cosmetic surgery? People who have too much of it, right? Like this person you're talking about. There's this one woman who's obsessed with cosmetic surgery and she won't stop. And so people who are serial cosmetic surgery stuff. And I thought that you did a good job talking about other things that money can be used for. Only I wanted you to make the comparison, and all of these are better than cosmetic surgery, right? And so, because in order to win the debate, you don't have to prove that they're zero and you're infinity. You just have to prove that you're better than them. That's it. If you're a little bit better, you win. If you're a lot better, you win. And it all looks like a W, right? So sometimes you can be more credible, but that was better. Yes, Taylor, rocket.
Could I ask for those main points? Maybe just make sure.
The main points about you?
Yeah.
Your title was a little long.
Okay.
I thought that you needed to dump cost.
Okay.
I thought you needed to talk about how that they don't think they're going to get caught.
Yeah. All right.
Go.
So, this House would oppose the death penalty. The central reason behind this is that we believe that the death penalty does not, in fact, reduce violent crime. Let's begin with the concept that people will always commit crimes. And so the correctional system in any civilized country is introduced as a concept of deterrent, which to tell criminals that if they're caught, they will be punished. This idea is flawed unless it is combined with a legitimate threat that they will be caught. So the death penalty itself as a deterrent is not effective because criminals will simply try harder not to get caught. This will just lead to more death. For instance, if someone has committed a violent break-in or a breaking and entering case and someone has is a witness, they may be more tempted to commit a murder, or if they've already murdered someone, they will not have a moral compass that functions that says they cannot do it again and to avoid getting caught. This is shown by cities that have the highest murder rate, that have the toughest sentences for murder, have the highest murder rates. This is because the criminals are trying that much harder to avoid those tough sentences. Also, in these cities, cops or police officers who are enforcing the law will be more likely to shoot first because they know that the criminals are that much more desperate to avoid the death penalty. For all these reasons, we believe that the death penalty simply leaves a trail of more and more death in this path when it is instated, and for this reason we oppose it.
All right, good to go. Much better. Much better. Oh, I like the way you changed my word cops to police officers.
Cops.
You never know when you're being judged by one.
I know.
They may not particularly
Yeah.
like it. So that was good. And I thought you could have thrown in another sentence about the purpose of the criminal justice system. That was a good part of your first argument.
Okay.
So that was better. All right, Colin. Here we go.
Okay, this House would attack Iran to destroy its nuclear capabilities. Right now, the relationship between the United States and Iran is tense, but it's still stable. By attacking Iran, the United States would guarantee the destabilization of this relationship. Attacking Iran will invite a dangerous knee-jerk reaction from that country. Attacking would render them more hostile, much like a cornered animal. When you corner an animal, they will feel threatened that they will be even more prone to attack you because of their desire to escape and remain alive and functioning. By attacking Iran, they would have that feeling that they're cornered and would therefore be led to retaliate against the United States. The entities have defense mechanisms, but they only use them when they're provoked into using them, such as when they're attacked. And by attacking Iran, that would basically invite them to use their military against the United States or other things the United States stands for or is allied with, such as Israel. So by attacking Iran, it would invite them to lash out at Israel. It would invite them to lash out. This action may take form in attacking Israel, funding terrorism against the United States, attacking troops stationed in Southeast Asia, or similar actions. Again, right now the United States-Iran relationship is very stable, and attacking them will guarantee a dangerous destabilization in the area, and possibly even around the world. The repercussions of such an action as attacking Iran are just too vast to justify such an irresponsible action.
Okay, good job on the impact step. Good job on the impact step. I was looking for that example of attacking U.S. forces in Iraq, which are right next door. And is there any indication, and what indication do you have that they would attack Israel?
The fact that that's like his goal.
Well, they said they want to wipe Israel off the map, so you want to
use that.
You want to use that. One thing, I think the cornered animal thing is a good analogy, but sometimes, now that I think about it, we don't really want to say Iran is like a cornered animal, right? I think that can be interpreted as kind of racist and people. So it might be better to talk about it's a basic animal and human instinct that's called flight or fight, right? You either run away or you fight. So either avoid conflict, but if we gotta fight, we're gonna fight, right? So they're in the fight or flight stage, and we want to leave them in the flight, not in the fight, because if we push the fight button, then it's going to happen. That's a very basic human and animal characteristic. And so, I thought that was better, much better. All right, and now I have you all answering your argument, and there's no time for that. It's time for lunch. At 11:33. Did I sucker you into doing something?
Yeah.
That was me. Did you find anything wrong with your own argument?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody not find anything wrong with their argument?
Kind of.
Kind of.
I disagree with cosmetic surgery, so I don't know how to look at the opposite side. I said boxing is a form of defense, so.
Or what?
Self-defense.
Huh? And I would say people have the rights to control their own bodies. If they want to do that to their body, that's fine. But we'll talk about these things called voluntary and involuntary risks and other kinds of stuff earlier. All right. Here's what the faculty tells me about you. And it's about all of you. You're very smart. You can speak. You are focused. They think you're so much better than the group we've had in this session the last 2 years. So you should take that as a compliment. And so what they want to do is sort of upgrade the instruction a bit to give you more of the good stuff that you, because we're not worried, you can talk, you can debate. And to be quite honest with you, the structure thing, you know, the more argument development and being more structured with debate, and you having the arguments instead of somewhere you got it, that's the next step. But I feel very good that by the end of this, y'all are going to be pretty tough. And then we'll videotape you and give you the tape so you can take it home and show wherever you want, but you will control it. Okay? All right, see you later.
Howard, I had this idea.
It's going to be cool.
Lovely. You know, one rebuttal is basically just going to talk about the risk of letting Iran get nuclear weapons is too great because they've already collaborated with
Iran will not get nuclear weapons.
Why is that?
Want to know why?
Yeah.
Because the Grand Ayatollah Khamenei has agreed that nuclear weapons are profoundly anti-Islamic because they kill the innocent. And the Quran says when you kill the innocent, it is as if you had killed the whole world. So he directly said that nuclear weapons are profoundly anti-Islamic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, please don't say what about people who wrap bombs to themselves and blow themselves up in supermarkets, because I think that's profoundly anti-Islamic too. So there we go. Yeah, and other reason they really need nuclear electricity badly. You know why? Because they only have so much oil and they're pumping it too fast, and between 15 and 20 years from now, it'll be gone. They're pumping it too fast. Why do you think they're pumping it so fast?
Because they can sell it quicker.
No, it's not because of us. And what do you know about their population? They're very young. They're very young, and they're not particularly happy living in a, you know, a religious sort of theocracy. So what happens is they have big social benefits, a lot of spending, a lot of subsidized products to keep prices low, to keep the lid on things, or else people are really going to go ballistic, right? So they need to have all this money to keep the young population fairly happy, or else they're going to blow it off. December 2008 finding by 18 American intelligence agencies concluded that they did not have nuclear weapons. They have uranium enrichment.
Right.
That's
not equal to nuclear.
Not equal to nuclear weapons. And then and people like John McCain conflate those two. Uranium enrichment.
So you can believe Ayatollah Khamenei when he says...
I only believe him that he believes it's anti-Islamic. That's not the kind of thing who says, hey people, you know that thing I said? Nah, I was just kidding. He's supposed to be like the voice of God. And if God says it's evil, don't do it. And I don't think he's going to do it. First, he might die and be replaced by somebody else. But for the current time, I don't think he is.
That's really
Plus, if there's any tangible proof of the development of a realistic nuclear capability, Israel will strike them with tactical nuclear weapons. And that would make a big mess. So, go have lunch. Don't think about nuclear war, children. It's all right. This is not the world of Watchmen.
Thanks a lot. That was really helpful.
Yeah.